Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go pack go. Ain't show with no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing I will.
All right. Good evening and welcome into Lombardi's Legends podcast. We are doing this live on our Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and a Twitter feed. So I'm going to have Dane joining me on YouTube and Instagram live here in just a moment. Thanks so much for those of you joining in here this evening. Feel free to say hello, pop into the chat. If you have any questions, observations, thoughts on the Packers as training camp has gotten started, we're going to get into some stuff here tonight. So, Dane, I see you're on here. Welcome in. How are you doing this evening?
Wags, I'm so good, man. It's good to be talking Packer football. Good to see you, brother. I know you just got back for some solid camping and some rest and relaxation. So it's good to see you, and it's good to be back, man. It's actual Packer football, right? We're the pads are back on. We debated coming on Monday and talking, but we said, you know what? Let's wait until a couple days of padded practice. And man, am I sure that we did because I'm glad that we did because there's just a lot of good football already starting in Green Bay, and the season's going to come up quick, man. So we've seen a lot. I think we've got a few major talking points to talk about tonight. Anybody who wants to drop something in the chat, go for it, please. But just good to be here, man. And we've been doing some giveaways too, Wags. Can we tell our fans about some of our awesome giveaways?
Yeah, I think we should. Before we get into tonight's content, we've done some giveaways. So, first of all, for those of you that have been following along, we this past week just did tickets to family night, 4 tickets to family night, and we did draw and had a lucky winner. So, Dane, you can update everyone on the winner of that. We also have T-shirt and koozie, Lombardi's Legends T-shirt and koozie. So stay tuned for that. But another giveaway from our sponsor, Leap Spirits. We'll be announcing that later in the episode for this week. So both in the episode and on social media. The big thing with the giveaways, Dane, what is it? Follow, like, and at someone in the comments when you see the post of the giveaway. We want to share this. So the more people you at, the more entries you get into that week's drawing. So we appreciate you both entering and spreading the love and sharing us with your network. So if you want to get in a drawing, get some free stuff, great way to do that. Just follow along Lombardi's Legends on all of our social media feeds. So Dane, can you tell us a little bit about the family night giveaway and the lucky winner for that one?
Yeah, it's awesome. So, the way we did it is we said, like, share, comment, all these different things. And we had an at somebody, but also at a player. And we had an awesome lucky winner, BJ. She, her husband, they've got a 12-year-old kid, very excited to be heading to family night. They assured us they'd be using all 4 of those tickets. And it's going to be great. I mean, for some people, this is the first up close they're going to see Jordan Love throwing a football. And that's a huge deal after so many years. So BJ and her family out there in Ashwaubenon, Wisconsin, the big lucky winners, and so many people commented and got involved this year. So we were so happy to give it away. It's hard to draw and not be able to give them to everybody. But like you said, Wags, there's so many things we're giving out all year long, not just in the preseason, but during this season. So stay tuned. Tons of Lombardi's Legends swag, T-shirts, koozies, who knows what else as the year progresses. So stay tuned. And Wags, I think it's fair now to transition in. I mentioned Jordan Love. Shoot, man, it's J-Love time. How have you felt he's been looking at camp so far from everything that you've been able to see and from some of your contacts and folks that you've been talking with?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's probably about what we would have expected. He's had some really good days. He's had some days where there's been some inconsistency. Now, headlines out of camp so far is that the defense has won every day. They're doing up downs with either the offense or defense. The loser of the day has to do either up downs or push ups or some type of activity at the end of practice, depending on who quote unquote wins or loses the competitive periods. And so far, it's been all defense. Now, Dane, I got to say, though, Jordan Love has had a couple of really good days. Last week, I believe it was Thursday, by all accounts, had maybe his best practice ever as a Packer. That was in front of the media. So he may have had some other big moments that the media and fans were not able to witness. But and then he followed that up. He's had some okay days, and then a couple of days that were really good. And honestly, the only reason the offense didn't win is maybe just some inconsistencies with the guys that are around him, some young guys. I know Musgrave had an opportunity to score in the 2-minute drill the other day at practice that probably would have given the offense their first win of competitive periods for a daily practice. Wasn't able to stretch and get the ball over the goal line. Maybe he was thinking he was still on college rules and had to get his feet across the plane, but that was a learning lesson for the young man. And but by all accounts, Love had a really good day. Another day, I think not yesterday, but the day before, Love had a really solid day, but it was actually the backups that kind of let the offensive side of the ball down and not getting pushing them over the top to get the quote unquote win in the competitive period. So I think we do want to see some more consistency, certainly. But Dane, I don't know about you. I'm not terribly surprised that the defense, with the talent and experience and the number of guys that they're returning, and heck, defense is usually ahead of offense anyway. So I'm not terribly shocked that by all accounts, the defense seems to be winning most of these overall battles, even if Jordan Love has had some pretty good days out there as well.
Yeah, I'd be actually concerned if they were just torching this defense, to be honest with you. I mean, we expect um, learning curves, right? And we expect some bumps in the road. I think we're going to see that throughout the season too. It's just a reality of a young offensive roster, but I think this is a uniquely talented defense, and they've got a ton of ball hawks. They've got a lot going on. I mean, we've read it. I think that we've seen some really good pressure out of some of the younger guys. Devontae Wyatt, Wags, has been somebody that's looked really, really good. He's had a lot of pressure up the middle, and you can't touch the quarterbacks, right, in training camp. But you can tell when the pressure's there, and this defensive line and these pass rushers have really been able to get a lot of pressure. But that being said, Wags, what I'm going to tell you, and what I'm very, very excited about Jordan Love and about the development, is his deep ball has been very, very strong. And that's something that, I mean, you can teach some stuff. Some of those deep balls, though, it's just hard to make those hits. He was not hitting some of those in previous off seasons when it was open to the fans and to the media. He is hit on a ton of deep balls. Some of them look like they're incompletions because they were dropped, but he's had some dimes, man. And that's something that we know that Jordan's got a big arm. We know that he's going to be aggressive downfield. It's nice to see it start to click and come to fruition. And it's not just the just quote unquote Packer media or locals saying it. I've seen some of the national narrative, which is, I think, is ready to be critical of Jordan Love and the Packers at any drop of a dime. They're saying, whoa, Jordan hit Christian Watson on this player. Whoa, he, was over the top and he just dropped it right in the breadbasket for Jalen Reed. Like, we're seeing Jordan every single day make deep throws really consistently. So yes, there's some consistency issues on other spots, but overall he's commanding the offense more. I think he's gotten better every single year. I think that what you can't tell is how much he's going to use his legs to help extend the chains as well when we're playing in this kind of atmosphere. But Wags, do I expect a bit of an up and down year for Jordan? Of course, it's his first year starting in the league, but everything that we've seen in camp so far tells me that the Packers can win football games with Jordan Love. And that's a huge deal when you have the surrounding cast of a more talented, I think, defense and a young offense that's looking to gel. He's got his young weapons. He's got a defense that I think is going to be able to keep this Packers team in the game. And we'll be projecting stuff all off season, right? But right now, looking at Jordan early on in camp and with pads on, he looks the part of a guy who can start in the National Football League. And that's a big deal.
Yeah, for sure. And I think one thing to keep in mind is what I'm happy to see is that the mistakes he's making are being aggressive. He's not tentative out there by all reports. And we're in camp. We've got these young wide receivers that he's building rapport with. He's got to, get a rhythm, test what he's able to do in this offense with that big arm. And this is a time to work some of those things out. So I have no problem right now with him making some mistakes if they're aggressive physical mistakes, as long as he's able to ensure that he's not making some of those boneheaded mental mistakes where he throws something out into the flat and it's a gimme pick six. Those are the things that can kill you as a young quarterback with an offense that's going to be trying to find its rhythm and trying to find its footing. And by all accounts, the number of those types of mistakes by Jordan has been extremely minimal. And heck, he hasn't even thrown all that many interceptions compared to what Aaron Rodgers normally threw in camp, as he tries to test out and see what his wide receivers can do and give them an opportunity to go up and catch the football. You do it now, and then you don't have to learn in game situations what those guys are capable of, or trying to stretch what your rhythm and what your alignments are. So I think, I'm very encouraged as well by what we're seeing and hearing about Jordan and Cam. And even if he's not perfect because I by all accounts, he's going to play some in preseason games. I think it's going to be a good opportunity for him to work through some of those nervousness that he might have, and just get through some of the game situations so that he's fully ready to go come week one. So, cautiously optimistic by what we've seen. Certainly you can nitpick, and there's days that haven't been perfect, but honestly, Dane, I think we've got to be pretty encouraged at this point by what he's been able to accomplish thus far. So, Dane, that kind of segues us. Let's stay on the offensive side of the ball. We've been seeing a lot of movement at a couple of positions on the offensive line, but one of the things, first of all, that's very different about the offensive line compared to last year is just how healthy this offensive line group is coming into camp. So it appears that by all accounts, just like what we expected, main competition seems to be center and right tackle. And it's not Zach Tom versus Josh Nyman or Zach Tom versus Josh Myers. It's really Josh Myers versus Josh Nyman. Who's the better of the guys to be in that top five on the offensive line? So it does appear that John Runyon seems to be settled in at right guard, which isn't a terrible surprise to me. And then, of course, Bakhtiari and Elton Jenkins are manning up the left side at left tackle and left guard. So, Dane, it's interesting to see what's been happening with those frontline guys, but then also at the center position, how much turnover we've had kind of at the end of the roster, if you will, or what's happening by all accounts behind Josh Myers. So I'm just curious if you have any commentary on either of those things, because I think it's really fascinating to me, both the competition for that starting role and what the front office and Goody's been doing to try to turn over and bring in some additional competition, perhaps for some of those backup positions as well.
I mean, that's really good insight on the Yash versus Myers, because I think that's a really appropriate way to look at this competition. I'll tell you what, I think that when we look at the best five on this offensive line, if you're asking me today and you're asking me even last season, I would say it's left to right: Bakhtiari, Elton Jenkins, Zach Tom at center, John Runyon Jr. at right guard, and Josh Nyman at right tackle. That being said, the reality of this season, and I'm just going to be a realist, I think David Bakhtiari, if we get 10 to 12 games out of Bakhtiari, that's going to be awesome. But based on, just the injury, it's hard for us to project, and it's impossible to project anybody, but it's hard to project a guy who's, has these rest days, has a lower leg injury. That's, a left tackle in this league. If he's not good to go, he's not going to be good to go. So I wouldn't be surprised if we're going to see Josh Nyman bouncing between right tackle and left tackle throughout this year. I think we're going to see some reshuffling with Zach Tom going from center to right tackle. But if I think week one, I would actually be mildly surprised if Zach Tom isn't starting at center. And maybe that's a surprise to folks after what Josh Myers, having been on the team for the last few years and having that starting spot. But the thing with Josh is he shows these flashes of serious talent. I think that he has a ton of ability to play along the offensive line at center or potentially even at guard at the NFL level. The problem we see with him is it's up and down. Week to week, we have consistency issues with Josh Myers. And this is a Packers offensive line. They're like anybody, you're only as good as the guys next to you. And sometimes it seems like we see missed blocks. We see that things aren't gelling. We've also seen Josh Myers has had a number of fumbled snaps already in training camp. And it's not just with Jordan Love, but we've seen it with Sean Clifford, the backup quarterback as well, a number of spots here. So that's a little bit of an alarming scenario as well. So all of that is to say that, we're going to see this shake out an awful lot over the next few preseason games. I think this is truly an open competition right now. But dollars to donuts, I think Yosh Nijman is a starting right tackle or left tackle in the National Football League. We're going to see him play a bunch of that. And then, Wags, you mentioned real quick some of the churning. I love about this front office. One of the things I love is that they do churn the kind of the back end of the roster. It creates competition. It creates an environment where you can't really rest on your laurels. We've seen a number of guys that have been on the roster the last few years, and they're no longer on the roster after just a couple of days of training camp. And that's not a knock on the individual. These are guys that we've come to really like on the team. But if they think that they can get better, the Packers are always looking to get better. And it was exciting, even at center, with Jake Hansen getting injured, for the Packers to go out and get Cole Schneider back into training camp. A guy that was with us last year, we thought was really good, got injured, went to the USFL, had an awesome season at the USFL. Now he's back in Green Bay, Wags, competing for a spot on this roster, either the 53 or potentially the practice squad. So this is an offensive line that I think we know who our top 6 or 7 guys are. But after that, there's going to be a little bit of turning. And then with this extended practice squad roster, there's a ton of competition going on. And don't look now, Wags, but also Sean Ryan, who was our 3rd round pick last year, kind of had a lost season, had a really, really good day today in camp in full pads. His one-on-ones, he's 8-0 going against defensive linemen, and his 1-on-1s so far in camp. He's having a really, really strong camp. So a guy that I think has been written off by a lot of folks out there is also competing. So there's a lot to be excited about. And I would say that this Packers offensive line is probably the deepest part of the entire team. There's a lot of different mixes and matches to have a really, really strong 5, but left to right, give me Bach, give me Elton Jenkins, give me Zach Tom, give me John Running Jr., and give me Yosh Nijman. And I'll put that offensive line up against anybody in the league.
Yeah, I think going back to your feeling on Yosh versus Josh Myers is, honestly, Yosh has been more durable over the course of his career. And not that Pro Football Focus offensive line ratings are the be all end all, but Yosh has consistently rated quite a bit higher. Now, last year wasn't as good for Yosh as it was 2 years ago, but I think the coaching staff did Yosh a little bit of a disservice in not giving him more reps at right tackle all the way through the offseason program and preseason. They just kept him at left tackle. I get that Bakhtiari's status was a little bit of an unknown going into most of the way halfway through last season, but it was a difficult situation. He kind of had to move over to the right side on the fly, and was battling a couple of nagging injuries himself towards the end of the season. So honestly, I think with a healthy Yosh Nijman that's getting more reps and a longer look at right tackle, the way that he rated out both in the run game and in the pass pro 2 seasons ago on the left side tells me that he's got a lot of upside potential. And frankly, he outperformed Josh Myers anyway last season. So under the circumstances, I can certainly understand why the coaching staff is giving a long, hard look at both of these guys and ensuring that Zach Tom is getting a lot of reps at both those positions as well. Because I said it before camp broke, Zach Tom is one of the top 5 guys. He's already a starter. I know he's rotating around, but he's starting. You can pretty much lock it down. Short of a disastrous preseason performance the rest of the way from Zach Tom, he's going to be one of the 5. It's just a matter of whether one of those other guys is able to lock it down. And I think we'll have a pretty good idea over the next couple of weeks. So, Dane, before we get into our last training camp observation, I think we should take a really quick break. We talked about our giveaways at the top of the show. So we've got a really cool giveaway this week. And this one is from both us and really our sponsor, Leap Spirits. So for those of you that are watching on the YouTube, Twitter, and Facebook Live, you can see the Leap Spirits memorabilia in my backdrop. So our good friends at Leap Spirits have been kind enough to pledge a bunch of those pint glasses. So if you can see over my right shoulder, we've got a Leap Spirits pint glass, and we're giving away 4 of those this week. So I'm really excited. So follow us on our social media networks. We're going to put a post out there, and what you can do to enter in to win those Leap Spirit pint glasses for free in this week's giveaway is just go ahead and make sure you're following us and like that post. And then if you add anyone in the post, that gets you extra drawings and an extra opportunity to win. The more people you add, including players as bonus points, more entries you get. So you add a player, you get 2 bonus entries. You add a friend, that's a one-time bonus entry. So you can add as many people as you want. The more people you add, the more bonus entries you get into the drawing for a chance to win Leap Spirits pint glasses. So Dane, what's a good drink that you think you would like to make and fill up that Leap Spirit pint glass?
Oh, I'm a Bloody Mary guy, Wags. Little Sunday morning, sitting down, cracking open some Leap vodka, pouring that in there with your favorite Bloody Mary mix, relaxing a little bit. Fall leaves coming down. Packers about to come on the TV. I mean, is there anything better than that? That's where I'm at, and I will be using these Leap Spirit pint glasses all year long with our Leap Spirits vodka and our Bloody Mary. And folks, just so you know, Leap Spirits, there is a connection here. It's Leroy Butler, Packer Hall of Famer. Leroy Butler is a investor and owner of Leap Spirits Vodka, and we're just so honored to have Leap Spirits as a sponsor, and we're giving those pint glasses away. It's going to be so much fun this season.
Yeah, absolutely. So with that, let's get back into our final observation here from camp. And Dane, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't talk about the kicker situation. And so Packers really made a decision. They went all in, drafted Anders Carlson at kicker, and certainly a connection with the Packers and special teams. And so young man has a big leg, wasn't terribly accurate in college. So that raised a couple eyebrows, I think, from you and I and some other Packer fans. Certainly they gave some reasons why, but so far in camp, he's struggled a little bit. And in the meantime, we've got old Mason Crosby standing on sideline unsigned. So what is your feeling on this? Are the Packers going to be stubborn and stick with the young man and the guy they drafted and just try to ride this through? Or is it time, do you think, that they need to suck it up and bring in some competition and open this thing back up? Maybe not admit you've made a mistake, but let's bring in someone else to really make this a full-fledged competition rather than just handing it to the rookie when he seems to be struggling a bit here early in camp.
Yeah, it's, last thing I want to be, and I think that we are in this pod, is the knee jerk, like fire the guy types of commenters on the Packers. But I'll tell you what, this is where you take a look at guys. And what we've seen out of Anders, and I think that the frustrating thing about Anders Carlson, or maybe it's difficult for me to comprehend, is that it seems like every time he rolls out there for his first kick, he misses it. And there's no rhyme or reason to it. 40 yards. I mean, I think he missed a 38-yard field goal attempt, and then he hit a 52-yarder. it's kind of concerning, right? That it's kind of all across the map as well. So I have a little bit of concern there. I saw in the chat, John Dorn just mentioned Robbie Gould. I mean, Robbie Gould's a free agent. Of course, our boy Mason Crosby is a free agent. Wags, I don't think it's admitting mistake, and I agree with you to at least bring in competition in training camp. I mean, Pat O'Donnell is getting a run for his money right now with Dan Whelan, a punter from Ireland who's just booming and looks the part of an NFL punter. We've got 2 long snappers in camp right now competing. And Anders Carlson right now seems to be the most inconsistent out of all the specialists. And he's the only kicker on the roster. It's a little bit concerning. And traditionally, I wouldn't be as worried, but we've seen this Packers team double down on situations that maybe should have been remedied earlier. And I think about Amari from a couple of years ago, and even into last season, returning punts. And it just didn't work out. And then lo and behold, you have somebody like Keyshawn Nixon waiting in the wings who just takes, becomes an all-pro return person. So I have a little bit of concern about the Green Bay Packers stubbornness and willingness to move on from somebody. And I agree. And Roxanne on our Insta Live says there's going to be some growing pains. I totally agree. What I think is this is a Packers team that is not going to be able to afford to give up points as the season progresses. And I think that hopefully the plan is Anders goes into the first preseason game. Hopefully, he settles in. He has a really strong preseason game. But if he starts missing field goal attempts in the preseason, Wags, or even on family night on Saturday night, and then a preseason game, at least bring in competition and make him earn the spot, because the Packers have had a ton of kickers come in over the last couple of years. They've held them on our practice squad. They've let them go. And now Anders is the lone man, but it's really hard for me to swallow if we have a guy who's, 12 for 20 in training camp and Mason Crosby sitting at home, because I'm confident Mason Crosby 45 and less is going to hit it. Whereas, if we have a guy who's not hitting him in camp, that's where I get nervous. So I'm not trying to pile on the young man early on. I want him to succeed. I want him to succeed in Green Bay, but at least a little bit of competition with the 90-man roster right now would maybe not be the worst thing in the world.
Yeah, we've got a comment on our Facebook Live from Jason. He says the kicker will be fine. He had an injury just recently. He will get back to form. So, Jason, we'll see. I think one thing I would say is Packers, I would like them to go and at least get a young kicker to compete with Anders. I can understand if they're not bringing Mason back or signing a Robbie Gould right now. We've got plenty of time to see what this kid can do. He should have some competition. I think the problem is if you go get one of those veteran kickers, you're kind of making a commitment that that's going to be the guy. And then now Anders you're basically just casting him aside at this point. It would take a little bit of extra financial commitment to make a move like that. So, while I certainly agree that some competition would be probably a good thing at this point, I can understand why they don't want to make that level of a commitment and push in all their chips and kind of make a decommitment from Anders this quickly as well. So some move is probably necessary, but let's give it a few more weeks before we start calling the veteran guys. You can basically do that anytime, and I think there's a few other guys out there beyond just Mason and Robbie Gould as well.
Well, you're right. And I mean, even I think about Parker White, right, who was on for a bunch of the off season, really strong kicker out of South Carolina, had some really good run. I think about our Molson, who was on the practice squad for like over a year, who's still working out. I mean, the Packers have kickers that they've worked out right. That's a thing. To your point, I don't disagree with you. Don't have to go the veteran route, but just to bring in another leg, a young guy who can hit it, that's proven that they can hit some field goals, would not be the worst thing in the world. So I'm with you 100%.
Yeah, for sure. So Dane, any other comments or any other items from the chat that's come up that you want to hit on before we sign off here for the night?
I saw on Insta Live somebody asked our take on Kayshawn Nixon. Broadly speaking, they think he'll return or continue his form. Maybe I do as a return person. Absolutely, it's his job. I'm excited to see what he can do in that nickel role and an expanded role on the defensive side of the ball. Wags. I think that he's somebody that every time he's gotten a chance to play, he's played really well. They've even snuck him in on the offensive side a little bit, which I think is kind of a fun little wrinkle potentially. But curious your take on Kayshawn, but no reason for any concern there. He's an absolutely talented guy. He's electric, and he's somebody that's really helped stabilize the return.
Yeah, nothing to add. I have no concerns there at all either. I think one thing that we'll probably hit on, I'm kind of curious how as we move forward into camp, we've been getting some reports on some of these young wide receivers, and I made a faux pas, and with all respect to Deuce Watts, I mentioned him as an honorable mention breakout, and honestly, Dane, I was just had a brain fart because I was talking about Jaden Reed. In my mind, I was talking about Jaden Reed the whole time. And then he goes out and had some really nice plays in the first couple of days of camp. So I felt a little bit silly. I mean, Deuce Watts, I hope he does well. I think he's probably more battling for a practice squad position than a breakout opportunity on the 53-man roster. But we've had some solid performance down at the end of that wide receiver battle. Not to lock some of these guys in completely, but I've been encouraged by some of the performances that we've seen. I haven't heard much from Romeo Doubs so far in camp. He's been relatively quiet. So I'm anxious to see what the next week of camp looks like. If the offense starts to get a little bit more rhythm, I think we'll have some wide receiver discussion to dive into as well.
Yeah, Malik Heath and Hicks are two guys that have looked really good, I think, when they've had a chance out there. Some of the younger guys. Wags, Jason in our chat. And what's up, Shadid? What's up? We're looking at our comments. So good to see all of our friends here. Jason asked about the tight ends and how they're doing. And I'll tell you what, I mean, you know who's having really good. Go ahead.
Let's save that one for next week as well. I think we can get right into wide receivers and tight ends. I don't want to just eliminate discussion on it, but I think that would be a good topic for next week. And then I'm anxious to maybe get into a little bit of discussion on the defensive line and edge groups as well. Devontae Wyatt, your breakout prediction on the D line seems to be the breakout guy on the defensive side of the ball so far early in camp. So I'm anxious to talk more about those guys as well.
Well, so we'll be back. Monday? What do you think, Wags? Monday night. Yep. We'll be back live, same time, 7:30 p.m. Central Time. Insta, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. You can get it the next day wherever you get your podcast. Monica, what's up? And our Insta says she's excited for the first post Rodgers season. We're excited for Jordan Love as well. Yes, they're going to be growing pains, but you know what? Sometimes the best things come from a little bit of growing pains here and there. And I think Jordan's going to have a really good year. So yeah, we'll be back on Monday, 7:30 p.m. Central Time, wherever you get your podcasts, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, everywhere. Wags, anything else that we're missing before we sign off?
Nope. Be legendary and go Pack Go.
Go Pack Go.
Every year I know we gonna go hard. We been that team ever since Bart started. All my cheese heads go Pack Go. Ain't show with no mercy, cutting no slack, no. I ain't a bad sport and I'll even wish you good luck. Only thing